Recently, someone let me know that Brave Search finally went into public beta. Now, I know this happened about a month and a half ago, but I only just heard about it, so we're doing the video now. When it comes to search engines, most of the search engines out there are basically just skins around things like Bing and Google. Even the two biggest privacy search engines, DuckDuckGo and Startpage, don't actually have their own index. So when they say they let you do anonymized searches, basically what they're doing is making it so those search engines have a much harder time to actually profile your searches by doing things like rotating browser information and rotating IP addresses and all the other information that those search engines actually use to profile you. But at the end of the day, you're still feeding into their data models. And I totally understand why every search engine out there doesn't have their own index. Back in the 90s, indexing was fairly easy. There wasn't that many web pages out there. But as of 2020, it's estimated that Google was indexing about 35 trillion or so pages. Knowing those pages exist is one thing. Ranking them in any sort of way that makes sense is much, much harder to do, especially when you have any sort of sizable user base. So when Brave claimed to have their own independent index, I wasn't expecting anything good, but I have been pleasantly surprised, actually. Sure, it's not perfect. Sure, it could certainly use some work. And there are plenty of things that I can find, like, say, this right here, which straight up don't produce any results whatsoever. But for the most part, the results are better than what I'm seeing with Bing, and obviously by that nature, better than DuckDuckGo. Now, you might be wondering where this search engine actually came from, because it's not like they just pulled this out of thin air or have been working on it in secret for the past couple of years. What they actually did is went and purchased a search engine known as Tailcat. So Tailcat is made by the same company that made the Clicks browser, which you've probably never heard of because the company is now defunct. And by defunct, I actually mean the top staff now work at Brave. Now, this is where we get into Brave being brave like always, and explaining stuff in a way that makes it seem like they're doing something sketchy, when in reality, they're not at all. They're just absolutely useless at communication. And you might think that's an exaggeration, but both Tailcat and now Brave Search refer to themselves as open search engines. Now, if you know what the word open means in relation to software, you probably think this means open source. And other people have thought this as well, saying, hey, if Tailcat and now Brave Search is open source, where is the source code? They don't actually mean open source. They're just using the term open to mean something that it really shouldn't be used for. So Brave Search is open. We do not believe in walled gardens, and as such, we will offer Brave Search to power other search engines. So you mean you're going to offer a search API? Like Google does, and like Bing does. So Google is an open search engine now by this logic? I don't understand why they're using this terminology. And if you thought that was the end of it, you didn't see the link to this video. So Tailcat's search engine is built on top of a completely independent index capable of delivering the quality people expect. By that logic, Brave Search is as well. And over on the Brave Search website, it says independent search. Even supposedly neutral or private search engines rely on big tech for results. Brave is different. We deliver results based on our own built-from-scratch index. We're beholden to no one. Which would indicate to me that if I go and search for something on Brave Search, let's say Linux, for example, every result I'm seeing right now is coming from the Brave index. That might not be 100% true all of the time. There is a metric in here called Your Results Independent, and clicking on that will explain what it actually means. So scrolling past all of the fluff, we can see this example right here. So in the example screenshot above, 92% of query results were served out by the Brave index. By results, we mean URL, text snippets, rich headers, maps, info boxes, images, etc. In this case, the remaining 8% were fetched anonymously from third parties, namely Google and Bing, and mixed in your browser to maintain privacy. They go on to say that Brave is fully capable of answering 99% of queries completely on its own. This check against third parties is not due to a lack of completeness, rather it's that for certain queries or result types, e.g. images, we may not be completely confident in our results to be at a level of quality you'd expect. what you just described here is a lack of completeness. So, I don't know what else to say about that. But at this current stage, there is no ability for the user to go and disable this result mixing. While we can go and explicitly enable Google result mixing, we cannot fully disable the result mixing altogether. So while you can say we have an independent index, the user has no ability to use this, therefore it effectively doesn't exist. And they do mention this on the Brave website, just not in a place that most people are going to read. You know, this giant bit right here halfway down the page. No, they mention it right down the bottom, inside of the last FAQ question, right about here. Now, when it comes to explicitly enabling the Google result mixing, I can't really say what this means for general searches. While for this search, if I go and enable this, it will go and redo the search and then fill it out with the results coming straight from Google. What about for the general result mixing? Is it not pulling stuff from Google by default? Does it only do it now that we've enabled this? Is it filling it out from Bing? It's not really clear what exactly is happening there, which makes the next point really, really strange, where Brave Search thinks that transparency is really, really important. Brave Search is transparent. We will not use secret methods or algorithms to bias results. We will explore multiple community-curated open ranking models to ensure diversity and prevent algorithmic biases and outright censorship. But in its current state, the ranking method isn't public. So you do use secret methods and you do use secret algorithms to bias the results. When these community-curated open ranking models exist, sure, then we can talk about transparency. But I can't talk about something that doesn't exist yet. I can only talk about the state that it's currently in. And this is exactly what you're doing. Now, people take bias to mean something inherently negative. Just ordering something by the order you see them is a way to bias the results. Bias doesn't necessarily have to be a negative connotation, but I can understand why they are using this terminology. It makes sense for the privacy crowd. What annoys me, though, is when you have an infographic like this one where it's like, oh, how does Brave Search stack up against the others? And then you list something that doesn't exist as a feature. Sure, in the future, make that a feature. That's fine. It doesn't exist yet. You can't just list that as a feature. And they don't have any plans to actually make the search engine actually open source. Someone has asked about this over on Reddit, and they did give an answer about this. So the short answer is not at the moment. Here's the detailed answer from the product director on Brave Search. Search is a sensitive utility that many actors have incentives to game. Opening it up is something that needs to be done with great care. And then they go on to explain their community-driven method they want to explore in the future. I can fully understand why you don't want to make your ranking method open source and make it so anyone can explore it. But don't say that it's transparent when it's frankly not. The one thing that Brave can be totally honest about is Brave ads, because it wouldn't be Brave without the ads. So currently in the beta, there are no ads whatsoever. No matter what you search for, you will never get any ads just using the search engine. And that's because they haven't really worked out how they actually want to fund it. So they're currently thinking of two different models. They want to have an ad-supported model where basically you'll see an ad and that will let you actually use the browser completely for free. But if you want to have an ad-free experience, then there'll be some form of paid model. Whether that's an outright payment or a subscription model hasn't really been decided yet. And when it does come to those ads, they are considering it making it so when you do see the ads, you will receive some attention token as a reward like they do with the Brave browser as well. Because it doesn't exist right now, I can't really say too much about it. I honestly expect it to be there from the start, and because it is Brave, I really do expect it to be there sometime in the nearish future. And if it does give you attention token, I can imagine if you're using the Brave browser, it's probably going to integrate directly with your wallet. I don't know how it's going to operate if you're not using Brave though, because you can use Brave Search in Firefox or in Chromium directly. Maybe it would prompt you for an Uphold account or something. I don't actually know how they're going to handle that. I can't imagine they would... Maybe they would have an extension. Actually, an extension might work. I could see that. I do use Brave as my main browser, as you can probably see from all the lines on my screen right now, and I think that Brave makes really, really good products. Not just their browser, but I think their search engine is really, really good as well. And I've started using it as my default search engine on both my phone and also my computer as well. Previously, I was using Start Page on the computer, and I think DuckDuckGo on the phone, just because I was trying them both out, but fully swapped over to Brave Search now. And I want to see Brave Search actually get better. What I also want to see get better is Brave actually being able to talk about their products in a way that they're not basically lying. Don't talk about future features as if they currently exist. If it doesn't exist, say it's going to exist in the future. Saying that it currently exists just makes it seem like you're doing something sketchy and trying to mislead people. But it is kind of funny to watch the ex-CEO of Mozilla basically rebuild Mozilla from the ground up, doing all of the same stuff that Mozilla is doing, but doing it better, while the original Mozilla is basically crumbling into the ground. Maybe it's just me, but I do find that kind of amusing. And if you like this video and you want to support the channel and become one of these amazing people over here, please go check out my Patreon, LiberaPay, Subscribestar, all linked in the description down below. I actually do have the LiberaPay link in there now. It hasn't been there for a couple of months. I've got a podcast called Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere. I've got a gaming channel called Brodie Robertson Plays, where I live stream twice a week and upload about 5 or so YouTube shorts. And then this channel is also available over on Odyssey. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.